Arylo here, and I have invited you into my backyard here with me for a little special video that I am taping from my heart to yours to share with you a question that I asked myself 15 years ago when I realized I was lacking self-love. And that question was okay, if I'm lacking self-love and I think I know I need it, how do I actually cultivate it? How do you actually grow your self-love? How do you actually do it? Like, what does that actually take and mean? So I know that you can't always come to a retreat or a workshop, and so I thought I would just make you this little mini workshop on video to share with you what I've learned over the last decade or so about self-love and how you actually cultivate it, how you do it. So that you, as you go into your life this year, that you can really start to really build and cultivate that strong foundation of self-love we've been talking about. I really go deep in self-love, especially in February, because for me, it's the time when I actually invite people to spend a full year of self-love with me. And I say yes myself to another year of self-love. And the reason I say yes to another year of self-love in February, and I invite people to join me from all over the world. You heard me talk about the Love Club, which is this 12-month program where every month we go branch by branch by branch of self-love. Remember, there are 11 different types of self-love, or 11 different branches of self-love, to really grow and strengthen that self-love foundation. And what I've learned, and the reason we take the whole year to do that, is that when you ask the question, how do I grow self-love? The real challenge that most of us face is not that you don't know what the self-loving acts are to take. So say, for example, if I was to list 20 signs that you had a strong self-love, or the 20 ways that you could love yourself more, which would, be like, be kind to yourself, only have loving relationships, make sure to get good sleep, eat food that's good for your body, be kind to your body, express who you are authentically, make sure that you're not just working all of the time, but you take time to actually rest, or you just do things for fun. Or go for your dreams and live from your heart. And these are all signs, you've heard them said over and over and over and over again. Take good care of yourself. But there's something that happens that makes it so that you can't actually take that self-loving act. There's something that happens inside your nervous system, inside your brain, inside your heart, inside your body, that has you choose fear or shame or guilt or obligation or overgiving or overworking or pressure or stress over actually choosing love for yourself. Because that's really what self-love is, right? It's just love directed towards yourself. But when it comes into the moment of when you're making a choice of how you're spending your time, or what relationship you're going to be in or not be in, or if you're going to put yourself out there or not, or if you're going to actually, what are you thinking inside of here? The hard thing is actually giving ourselves permission to make the self-loving choice. And so that's why I spend every year, and I dedicate a full year to self-love and actually giving myself permission in real tangible ways to actually make those shifts inside. And let me just tell you a little bit about how this works. So if you imagine inside of you, you have this nervous system. Most of us don't ever hear about our nervous system. But our nervous system is what actually regulates so much of our thoughts and our actions. It's what makes the difference between if we're in fear or if we are able to respond from love. And when you are in the process of trying to strengthen your capacity to actually make more loving choices for yourself, instead of fear and criticism and shame or blame, there's actually a 4-step process that needs to occur inside your neural pathways in order to start to make new neural pathways. So, for example, a neural pathway is just like it's like a connection point inside your heart and your brain and your body that says, if this happens, respond this way. And what we want to do and how we cultivate self-love is we want to rewire your internal operating system so that it actually has neural pathways that say, okay, if this happens, if this stressor happens, or this situation happens, that you actually have neural pathways that are programmed and are strong enough to make the loving choice. Now, because we live in this crazy society which is full of so much fear and shame and guilt and pressure, you actually have to reprogram your internal operating system. And that takes time. And the reason it takes time is because the shifting happens in a 4-stage process. Let me just share these 4 stages with you. So the first stage of actually shifting your internal operating system is awareness. And if you have a piece of paper, you can even write this down. First stage is awareness. You can't change what you're not aware of. So, for example, if you have patterns in relationships or in your work or in your health or in your happiness or in your wealth even, those patterns keep running until you become aware of what's actually running underneath the surface. And this is where we've been talking about, right, where self-love is at the root. It's the root of all of those things. And so as you become more aware of the ways in which you're loving yourself and not loving yourself, you become an observer of your life in a whole different way, where you start to see how your actions and your thoughts and the realities are actually tied to a lack of, be it self-care or self-esteem or self-empowerment or self-compassion. One of the reasons I wrote Madly in Love with Me and I developed these 11 branches or 11 kinds of self-love is because I really noticed that people had an awareness that more self-love would be good in their lives, but when it's such just this big thing and you don't break it down, it doesn't give you the context to actually respond or react or see things. So for example, if you were just to take one piece of self-love, for example, self-compassion, which is the branch I always start every year out with. Every March we start with self-compassion. And self-compassion is the ability to be kind, gentle, understanding, and patient with yourself. And so when you become aware of, oh my God, there's this thing called self-compassion, and it's about being kind, gentle, and understanding with myself. And you start to understand that compassion, and you start to think, and you start to see the ways in which you're not being compassionate with yourself. You actually start to be able to make different choices. And what happens is as you practice self-love, so there's many different practices that go with each of the kinds of self-love. So for example, self-compassion has daily practices that you can do in the morning, and you go throughout your day and you become aware of, wow, I'm choosing criticism for myself instead of choosing compassion for myself. And what happens as you've committed to this increased awareness of self-love, you move into the second stage of changing those neural pathways to strengthen your capacity to really choose love for yourself. And that's reflect. So, for example, now say we'll use self-compassion as an example. You know what self-compassion is. You are more aware that it's something you want to create in your life, and you know that it's something that you can give yourself. In the moments when you are about to choose self-criticism or self-judgment for yourself, which is so not self-compassionate, you can start to make different choices. But what occurs first usually is you'll still do the same pattern. So say you're a person who can be really hard on themselves. Like no matter how good of a job you do at something, you seem to always feel like you're not doing enough. Or maybe you're a person who puts a lot of pressure on themselves to be perfect or have it figured out to be right. And all that pressure gets built up. So if you're having a deeper awareness of self-compassion, when you make that choice to be uncompassionate to yourself, you could look back at that thing and be like, oh my God, I was so critical of myself. Oh my God, I was so judgmental of myself. Oh, maybe compassion would have been a better choice. And what starts to happen is you move into this third stage, which is called change in the moment. So using these really simple self-love practices, so we have self-love mantras, for example. One of my favorite self-love practices is using love mantras. One of the self-compassion mantras that I love is, I'm doing the best that I can, and it's enough. Or, I'm just learning, and that's okay. Or, an inquiry of wow, what would patience look like for me here? What would gentleness look like for me? What would understanding look like for me? So what starts to happen, and I see this again and again and again in the members that are in the Love Club that do the self-love year with me, and that's why I do the year of self-love every year over and over and over again, because I get stronger in this capacity to change in the moment. So what starts to happen is when you are at that choice point of am I going to be critical, judgmental, put pressure on myself, oh, heavy, or am I going to choose compassion by pulling out a love mantra, or pausing and asking God, what would patience look like here? And using the energy of that specific type of self-love, you start to make choices and have thoughts that are actually self-loving, that are supportive and sustaining, and that actually get you into alignment with your heart and soul's dreams. And over time, you move into what's called the fourth stage, which is integration. And this is where the neural pathway has been completely rewired. And so we're in a way where you might have shown up and been hard on yourself. After you do that enough times and practice it enough times by choosing compassion and learning to trust that if you're compassionate, for example, with yourself, that you will actually be more productive, not less, you have a whole new neural pathway, and you have an elevated level of awareness, an elevated level of happiness, an elevated level of health, elevated levels of relationships. Everything elevates. And we continue to go through this path again and again. You know, self-love isn't something where you're ever done. You get to deeper levels of mastery. And so where you might already be masterful at self-care, perhaps self-empowerment and self-compassion are places where you're still really working this. And even for me, you know, 10, 15 years after being on this self-love journey, I still every year find new ways as I go each type, self-care, self-compassion, self-esteem, where I'm not actually choosing love for myself all the time. And so I get to see by doing the practices, by doing my daily practice of self-love, which every kind of self-love has a daily practice, and having more daily awarenesses that I can change in the moment and integrate. Kind of like to think of it like this way, that you're like a love cocktail, and you came in 100% love, and then that got, you know, kind of shifted up by being alive on this planet, and fear and shame and blame and guilt got in there. And now you're in the process of if you're this self-love cocktail, getting back to that 100%, so that no matter what, beloved, you stay true to yourself. That no matter what, you only have loving, kind relationships. That no matter what, you never settle for less than your heart and soul desire. That no matter what, you're always kind, gentle, patient, and understanding with yourself. And that no matter what, you treat your body as a temple. Those are the foundations of self-love. And it's all about practicing it. And practicing it gets to be fun and powerful and potent. So I invite you to start becoming aware of the kinds of self-love and also the ways in which you're not choosing self-love, to start reflecting on how you could have chose love instead, start changing in the moment, and start actually benefiting from the integration. And if you want love and you want support and you want guidance, join me for a year of self-love. Join the Love Club. That's what we're doing. It's super simple. It fits right into your life so that you can have more awareness, you can have reflection. I'm here creating the container so that you don't have to. And I would love, love, love to spend a year of self-love with you. So sending you much, much love. Oh, and the URL, www.jointheloveclub.com. Okay, much love.